Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Future of Facility Operations, AI-Driven Solutions and Strategies. I'm Jennifer Goetz, the Editorial Director of Facility Executive Magazine, and this webinar is presented by ABM. Before we get started, I'll cover a few housekeeping items. There will be a question and answer segment at the end of this presentation, so please find the question box in the dashboard on your screen. This is where you can submit questions for our speakers today. If at any time you experience a technical difficulty, please send us a message via that question section and someone from our team will answer you privately. Now, I'm happy to introduce the agenda for today's discussion. As you can see, we'll be covering AI opportunities with perspectives on technology, information security, client engagement, in addition to covering future advancements for facilities using this technology, and for real-time data. Now, without further ado, I'm happy to introduce your speakers for today. Bob Clarke is the Senior Vice President at ABM Industries. Bob leads the client experience and operations support teams to deliver greater client satisfaction and retention by solving complex operational challenges. Kayla Oliver is ABM's Head of Product, Partnership, and Innovation. Kayla leads initiatives and forward-thinking strategies for clients that fuel growth, streamline operations, and create new opportunities. Reshmi Chakraborty is the VP of Technology at ABM. Reshmi leads the Data and Analytics Group to drive data strategies, enterprise solutions, and AI initiatives that improve efficiency and outcomes for clients. Stacy Hughes is ABM's Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer. Stacy brings more than 20 years of experience leading complex IT initiatives for Fortune 500 financial technology clients. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, without further ado, I'd like to kick off with a little video to get us started.
Possibility. Look closely, and you'll see it's all around us. It's when guests in their cars can recharge at the same time, when the terminal is a destination, and the game's MVP is a stadium. At ABM, possibility is at the heart of everything we do. Helping systems perform, businesses prosper, and occupants thrive across billions of square feet, touching millions of lives. We are driving possibility together.
I'm happy to introduce Reshmi to kick us off. On the topic of possibilities, we're going to dive into some of the possibilities that AI really presents us. So as we get started, Reshmi, would you mind giving us a general overview of AI? And the term AI is widely used, but an overview would be great for our audience.
First of all, everyone, I'm very happy to be here. I'm just a little bit under the weather, so please don't mind if my voice is not that well-sounded here. But AI is a powerful tool that enables machines to learn from data, make decisions, and automate tasks. Now, if we take a step back and look at how far AI has come, it has been an incredible journey. Thinking about from 1950s when pioneers like Alan Turing introduced the idea that machines could think. Now, in the 1960s, researchers built early AI programs that solved simple problems like basic math, logic puzzles. Progress slowed down in the 1980s when computing power wasn't quite there yet, but the idea of neural networks started taking shape. Then came the 2000s when advances in computing and access to massive data sets unlocked deep learning, leading to so many breakthroughs in areas like image recognition, speech processing. And now AI is everywhere, powering healthcare, finance, manufacturing, our facilities management. So let me mention the key areas where AI is making a real impact. And I'll start with machine learning. That's at the core of AI. It enables systems to learn from data, recognize patterns, and improve over time. Think about Netflix, Spotify, they use ML to recommend personalized content. Now, then we have natural language processing or NLP. It enables machines to understand, process, and respond to human languages, like virtual assistants like Siri, Alexa, or Google Translate. Then we have computer vision. It gives machines the ability to see and interpret visual data. It plays a critical role in self-driving cars, facial recognition systems like Apple's Face ID, and even medical diagnostics. Then think about predictive analytics. It uses AI to analyze historical data and forecast future outcomes. In facilities management, AI-powered systems predict equipment failures before they even actually happen. And then we have robotics. These are AI-driven robots. It's actually changing industries from warehouse automation and also robotic assisted surgeries in the hospitals. And now we have generative AI. Generative AI takes AI beyond this analysis. It actually creates. So this technology can generate text, images, music, and even codes. So there you have it. AI has come a long way from its early days, and it's now shaping everything from our daily lives to industries.
Mhm. It's amazing what it's capable of, especially some of the generative AI stuff. So, how can AI and data analytics improve space utilization and enhance AI-driven predictive maintenance and facility management?
Definitely. So, before we dive into that, let's understand the functions that are critical within data analytics to develop any AI solution.
Mhm.
So, starting with the data engineers, they are like the architects. They build pipelines to collect and manage the vast amounts of data generated in our facilities. Then we have the data scientists. They are like explorers. They develop AI models, including NLP, computer vision. They use generative AI to analyze data and generate insights. And then we have the analytics team. They are like the storytellers. They would translate the AI outputs into dashboards, reports for decision making. Now, how do we all this translate into a real world application? So let's start with predictive maintenance. Data engineers would integrate IoT sensor data, maintenance logs, energy records into a scalable cloud-based system. Now, with this solid data foundation, our data scientists then develop AI models, and models might be different for different scenarios. Like they can use predictive models to forecast HVAC failures, optimize repair schedules, and extend asset lifespan. They can use anomaly detection to identify unusual energy consumption or equipment behavior, using sensor-driven AI to recommend proactive maintenance based on real-time equipment performance. Also, we can use Gen AI for automated work order management, knowledge management, and there are many more use cases there. So once that's done, the analytics team, what they do, they visualizes these insights, tracks KPI, it's like say downtime reduction, cost savings, and enables data-driven decisions for the facility managers. And if you beyond predictive maintenance, like if you also think about space optimization, where does that data come from? IoT sensors can track foot traffic, room occupancy, also environmental conditions, while access logs, meeting bookings, employee feedback can also provide deeper insights. Again, the data engineers will build the pipelines to bring all this data together in one centralized location. Data scientists will use different models and algorithms on this data. Like they can use clustering models, identify underutilized areas or peak usage patterns. They can flag inconsistencies in space usage. We can also use computer vision and NLP to analyze security camera footage, meeting room data for optimal space allocation. Again, predictive models to anticipate future space demand. You can also create Gen AI powered assistants for improved tenant experience. An analytics team will translate all these insights into real-time dashboards to optimize layouts, reduce cost, enhance employee experience. Now, beyond all these, actually, after you build the AI models, this team also would continuously monitor and refine them to ensure it's accurate and it's scalable, and then integrate these models in actually production enterprise workflow. So, in summary, by leveraging real-time data and you're applying AI and analytics, we are able to mine this vast amount of data generated, uncover hidden patterns, and in turn, we enhance the efficiency, we minimize cost, and maximize the facility performance. So that's how data and analytics can help facility performance in with AI.
Wow, perfect. That's very interesting. Now, what are some best practices and pitfalls to avoid when it comes to developing AI opportunities and solutions?
Absolutely. So as we embrace AI, right, one of the main drivers to success lies in that overall data strategy. And I'm focusing on the data here first. Where do we start? To me, the top five are like this. Data scalability is my first, and it's not like in that order that first has to be data scalability, but it's these are my top five. So data scalability is you have to build for growth. Design a cloud first or hybrid architecture to scale with increasing data volume and AI workloads. Always try to establish consistent data models and taxonomies across different data sources and use strategies to optimize performance as datasets grow. Number two is data readiness. Build a reliable data pool. And what I mean by this is you all have heard this phrase multiple times. AI is only as good as the data it's trained on. So let's say we use IoT sensors to manage energy use in real time to unlock savings. But if we rely on faulty occupancy sensors, the AI may waste energy by hitting empty spaces. So the lesson here is reliable data is essential. Third is data governance. Implement automated validation rules to prevent duplicate, missing, or inaccurate data. Define data ownership and accountability within business units to maintain data hygiene. Standardization and quality control is very important, otherwise, we'll lose actual AI output. And then, number fourth is for me, when we are developing a solution, align AI with the business goals, but make sure you clearly define the problem before anything else. For example, say you are developing a Gen AI assistant. Now, if we say the goal is better customer satisfaction, then it becomes very vague. We need to define a clear, measurable problem. So instead of aiming broadly, say if we say let's focus on reducing response time for common billing inquiries. So by training AI to handle these faster, we improve the efficiency and naturally customer satisfaction follows. So always define the problem first and then the right outcomes will fall into place. And my last but not the least is continuous optimization. AI is never like you set it and forget it. It requires ongoing updates, otherwise, data can become outdated and AI becomes inefficient. So, these are some of the top strategies that I recommend.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing these valuable insights with us. Now we're going to move along to Stacy here to answer some of the key considerations for using AI in facility management. So, Stacy, what would you say are some of the key considerations for implementing AI in cybersecurity for facilities?
The main considerations I would consider in implementing AI and cybersecurity for facilities should include a good governance structure, and that governance structure should have multiple parts to it. The first one is having an AI policy, and that really helps to establish expectations for your organization on how to use artificial intelligence. The next one is an inventory of your AI use cases, whether you're developing them internally or you're leveraging a third party for artificial intelligence tooling. And then understanding what type of data specifically is going to be utilized. And this is important because there are data privacy and compliance considerations that you need to look into when you're developing your own artificial intelligence solutions. And then the next would be, how is it integrated into various systems within your environment? Because that also helps all the connectivity and it helps integrate with your security tooling and monitoring. And then last is just having a good testing process, making sure you're validating the information that's coming through your different AI models and use cases to make sure the performance is what you've expected and you're also avoiding any inaccuracies.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So, how can we ensure that AI-driven security measures are effective and reliable in our facilities?
Well, cyber threats continue to evolve. That is for sure. And security professionals, we're always looking at ways to monitor not just artificial intelligence, but our entire environments as well. But focusing on a few key areas with tooling and processes does help with what we're doing. The first one is model updates. And how are your AI models updating with new information? For example, for a security tool, there is new cyber intelligence and information that comes out every day. How is that being integrated back into a model? And then having a good testing structure in place as well. Is there a separate environment for you to test new functionality in models before it moves over into a production environment? After that, it's always good to have that feedback loop and have that communication process between updates and testing. And that also allows the models to evolve over time as well, and ties into integration, which is critical with your security operations functions and teams. They're able to then learn and monitor environments and gain additional visibility. And then at the end, I would say having a process to go back and audit everything that you're doing to make sure your processes are in compliance.
Now, what role does workforce education really play when it comes to successful deployment of AI and security?
It does play a large role. Everybody should be including artificial intelligence in, I would say, your security awareness programs at a minimum. And for example, we are seeing in the security world where artificial intelligence is being leveraged by cyber criminals to create an email, to create a text message, impersonate other executives. There's even voice recordings now and video recordings. And with that information, the continuation of how artificial intelligence can be utilized, sometimes in a negative way, it's also good opportunities to educate your workforce to help identify what those key areas are, and also reinforce the importance of communicating anything that they see as unusual or suspicious to their security team.
Absolutely. It's scary out there. So thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
perspective, Stacy. Now, before we move ahead, we are at a poll question we're going to ask our audience. So what is your biggest concern regarding AI implementation in facility management? We would love to get your perspective on this. You have about 20 to 30 seconds to respond here.
And while folks are responding, maybe I'll just chime in with, because we're obviously, I think every company is on an AI journey. So just wanted to share how we at ABM would answer this. And really, when we first started the journey, I think we would have said unsure of where to implement and steps to get started, because there's just that initiation inertia to get started. And really do think picking the right question is important. But now, just so everyone knows what we would say for our company, and I think every company is different, is workforce readiness. Because we've truly seen that technology is only 30% of capturing the value. You really have to have people and process for the other 70% to capture the full value.
Okay, it looks like our results are in. So the majority of respondents look like went with integration with existing systems as the majority here, followed by data privacy and security, and then unsure of what to implement and steps to get started. So Kayla, I know you spoke a little bit about ABM's approach, but how do you feel about these results? Is this kind of what you might expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these are super valid concerns, and I don't think there's any one right answer. The majority saying integrations with existing systems, that surprises me a little bit, but I think it's a really, really valid point, that while some existing systems are coming out with AI tool sets, other times you need to pull data from existing tool sets, and that takes time, that takes resources, and it can be challenging. So all are very valid concerns, and I think that we'll address a number of these as we continue on with the presentation.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you everyone for taking some time to respond, and Kayla for sharing ABM's perspective. So now I'm going to shift the conversation over to Bob about game-changing AI opportunities in the facilities space. So Bob, how can AI enhance client engagement, occupant satisfaction, and comfort in facility management?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. I think one of the big pieces, if you look at all three of those categories, really, I think you need to bucket them under making things more personal, making operations more personal, making operations more responsive, and also making operations more efficient. So when you look at those three categories and you break them down by each one of your questions, so think about client engagement, you think about predictive analytics, and some of these things, a lot of your audience is there are some folks are doing, some folks are doing, and they're more advanced, some not as advanced. So I'm not talking about anything that's not unknown to a lot of the audience. But when you think about client engagement, predictive analytics, smart reporting, conversational AI as it relates to chatbots. So there's that personalization, responsiveness piece, and then customizing AI around your particular environments. When you think about occupant satisfaction, you think about environment personalization. Okay, temperature controls, lighting, quality based on user preferences. CEO comes in the morning, the lights go on. Things like that. Service automation, feedback loops and things of that nature. So that's really tailored around the occupant satisfaction. And then when you think about comfort, obviously we get into IoT integration with hard systems, temperature, humidity, maintaining optimal conditions without manual input. Lighting optimization, again, it kind of touches occupant satisfaction as well. When you're talking about comfort, they go hand in hand. And last but not least, noise control. When you want to add white noise and mitigate unwanted noise. So
I can say for sure that's a definite concern for some of facility managers is how to create that comfortable space and make it an easier environment where it's not too noisy. Now, moving on, what are some successful examples of AI-driven client support in facility management that you've seen?
Well, you have to look at facility management / property management. A lot of the commercial real estate companies, for example, they've implemented workplace experience apps that help tenants with, navigating facilities, booking rooms, ordering services. And the benefit is you get an elevated client experience and you get frictionless communication between clients and facility teams. There are certain tech companies out there that have produced intelligent space planning, right? When you think about intelligent space planning, asset maintenance, help desk automation, the benefit there is faster issue resolution. So again, that efficiency piece that I talked about, right? Smarter space utilization and insights, and then automated round-the-clock client support. There's others that have deployed technology around occupancy and environmental sensors. Again, the machine learning around hard assets, whether it's optimizing HVAC, optimizing lighting, optimizing energy usage, right? And the benefit is better control and comfort and use by occupants. And again, that efficiency piece, that comfort piece. And then last but not least, being able to do predictive maintenance, automated workflows, and real-time client feedback. So that's another piece, that's a successful deployment and where we're seeing AI being deployed. So
yeah, it's very interesting in how its ability to streamline some operations and make things easier. So how can AI help in managing relationships with large strategic clients?
Again, there's that personalized client experience we talked about, right? Which is really critical in terms of there's dashboards that can be deployed, use patterns and recognition, client sentiment analysis, which is also critical. We want that client feedback. There's proactive and predictive services, predictive maintenance, issue anticipation. So knowing what's going to happen before it happens, right? Or predicting that it's going to happen, or looking at algorithms to make sure it doesn't happen again. Smart SLA monitoring. There's data-driven strategic insights when you're talking about large strategic clients, which is really critical when you think about portfolio optimization, sustainability tracking, cost forecasting. There's intelligent communication and support, chatbots, automated updates, natural language reporting, relationship strengthening and retention, account health scoring, and then tailored engagement plans. So, the list goes on and on and on. The benefits are just pretty significant, especially when you're talking about managing a strategic client.
Man, there's really some exciting opportunities out there. Bob, thanks so much for going through some of them with us. And now, without further ado, or last but not least, Kayla, we're going to be talking about future advancements utilizing technology, real-time data to improve efficiency and productivity. So, Kayla, now to get started, so what future advancements do you foresee in AI technology, specifically for facility management?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way that I think is important to frame it is really thinking about where facilities are headed, and thus how AI can help with where facilities are headed. And every other panelist has heard me say this many times. It's one of my favorite phrases, but facilities are in some ways today and are going to continue to become an ecosystem of data. We can think about all the data points that are associated with managing a facility, and there's just so many of them, from the CMMS data to occupancy data to lighting data to energy to what types of utilities. There's just data in every single aspect of it. And how AI helps and can help really advance that space is serving as a brain across that layer and helping form insights that continue to make facility management more effective, more efficient, and just more tailored and personalized to that unique facility's requirements. And so, in terms of advancements, really what I see is that AI will continue to become more specialized and tailored to our industry. It's just maturing overall, and the applications for our industry will continue to get better and better. And some examples that I think are going to come is predictive maintenance. And so we've all heard about predictive maintenance shifting from very routine schedule-based preventative work to getting predictive as to when a particular part will fail. And predictive maintenance is here today, but it's not here in terms of being able to predict a year out whether something will fail at high fidelity. And the better and better these models get, the better predictions we'll have, and the more effective we can do capital planning and keep uptime across our spaces. Another example is work order management. We all know there's a lot of tickets that come in, there's what we planned to do, and there's what's happening in the facility. So having an AI agent help prioritize the work in real time is another area where I think the space is headed. And finally, some conversational interfaces. Facilities are run by people, and there still will be a people element to this. It's always there's a human in the loop nature to the AI applications, not just in facility management, but overall. But the conversational interfaces for frontline team members are going to be super impactful in helping provide real-time guidance to questions, especially from more of that hard services aspect.
Mhm. So, how can real-time data analytics transform facility operations?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I provided a couple of examples in your last question, but to summarize what that looks like, the common thread is shifting from reactive to proactive. So whenever I hear the term transform facility operations, like that's really the root of it. All of these things are helping us shift from reactive, planned, schedule-based items, or reactive in the sense of we don't know something's wrong till someone tells us it's wrong. Like we don't know the light's out till someone tells us it's out. To much more proactive eyes, virtual eyes on all the building through different data sources that we're getting and being able to intervene before the problem actually occurs. That's the transformation.
Mhm.
And I think just to explain that a little bit further, why that works goes back to what Reshmi said in the beginning of the call. At the root of it, AI is prediction, and it's so much more complicated than that, but it's really, really good at prediction. And so when we apply that to facility management, that helps us with that proactivity, and we can have better resource allocation, we can have improved SLAs, we can have a better occupant experience. And importantly, we can also get better benchmarking as this data becomes more and more available.
Mhm. So, what are some emerging technologies that you think could complement AI, especially when it comes to facility management?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say things that help you with data. So at the root of it, you need data for AI to be viable at all. And so things that help you get and connect good data are super important. So that's kind of category number one. And some examples of that are a really robust, well-used CMMS system that has good data in it. And this is not a technology answer, but the processes around the data to make sure you're getting good data in your baseline systems, that's really important and supportive for AI use cases. When we think about technologies for data, though, layering in things like IoT sensors can help you get more data. That data should be structured, though, in a way that's helpful for your particular facility. So an example of that is you don't need to deploy IoT sensors for pest detection if you don't have a challenge with pests. But occupancy sensors, vibrational sensors, those are all very common IoT devices to deploy to gather additional data sets. And finally, within this data category, another great one is computer vision. Many people already have security cameras deployed throughout key spaces, and there's technologies where now you can use computer vision to pull key insights from that. So those are a couple examples: strong existing foundations, IoT sensors, and computer vision. Those all help you get the right data. The second way that I think about this is things that help you process that data better. Because if you think about how much data we're talking about in all of these different sources, aggregating it can become quite challenging and pulling out the cross-system insights. And so a couple things that help with that are digital twins. So digital twins help provide 3D virtual replicas of buildings. And where that's helpful is when you have tons of data and it helps you able to action it and visualize it in just a much more digestible format. And finally, edge computing. So digital twins and edge computing are two systems that help you process the data. Edge computing is just basically allows for data processing locally. So it helps you open up more real-time use cases. And my final bucket, so again, just to recall, the first bucket was getting the data. The second bucket is processing the data. And the final bucket, I'd say, is actioning the data. So AI will produce insights, but often you still need a human to action those or view those because most use cases are human in the loop. And so things like mobile enablement, as silly as it sounds, but can be incredibly impactful for getting the value out of AI use cases because you need to get the information to someone that a task needs to be done. And as an aside, Reshmi mentioned robotics in the beginning, but that's going to become more and more of a player, not now, but in the coming 5-10 years for actioning that data. So it's an important category to keep in mind.
Mhm. Perfect. Well, Kayla, thank you so much for addressing a few of my questions. And I just want to take a minute to thank all of our speakers today for coming up with some of our questions on AI. And now, without further ado, I'm happy to turn it over to our audience for some questions. So thank you to everybody who submitted some questions for us today. I think I'm going to get started here. Let's see. Okay, so the first question I have is, what are the initial steps to integrate AI into our existing facility management system? So, Reshmi, would you like to take this one?
Sure. Okay. So the way I'll go about it, think about four phases. So the first phase should be your planning and assessment. You need to audit the current systems and their data quality, identify high impact AI use cases, and then define the goals, KPIs, and your budget. The second phase should be you clean and standardize the data. It can be from your CMMS, IoT, BMS, whatever system you're using there. Then select the AI tools and platforms, and then build the real-time data pipelines. The third phase should be where you are actually piloting the launch. So deploy AI in one area, train staff on AI workflows there and monitor the performance and then adjust accordingly. And then the last phase is scale and optimize. You then refine the models, scale to other operations, other sites. Then you establish that continuous monitoring and training, and you build that long-term AI governance. So this is how we should try to integrate AI into the existing systems.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, I have another question here. It looks like how can we stay updated on the latest AI trends and best practices in facility management? So, Bob, would you like to take this one?
Yep, had to turn my mute button off. Um, so not to be cheeky, but we can use AI to investigate AI, right?
Mhm.
So if you've got different AI applications, that's pretty simple. And then Kayla had mentioned the publication that she's uses. I'd like her to jump in, which is really helpful in helping us stay ahead of the curve. So Kayla?
Perfect. It's similar to my ecosystem of data catchphrase. My other common statement that I say is everyone should be subscribed to the Superhuman newsletter, and I say that slightly hyperbolically, but I highly, highly recommend it. I think one of the best ways to stay informed and to ideate on AI is to just read up on the latest updates. And there's so many updates happening. Superhuman and similar newsletters are great ways to just get very digestible information about the latest updates. Just gives you that grounding to ideate on art of the possible.
Awesome. So where can our audience find that if they start looking after this webinar?
You can quite literally Google Superhuman newsletter, and you'll gut check that you're signing up for the AI one. But that's the best way to sign up.
Perfect. So another question we have here that just came in, what are the initial steps to integrate AI into our existing facility management systems? Reshmi, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, I think I kind of answered the similar
Mhm.
thing.
Yes.
First, you should do first is you
Mm,
listen what is the problem, and then you audit your data, then you do a pilot launch, and then you scale and optimize. So that should be the steps that we should be using to integrate AI into our existing systems.
mhm. And Stacy, do you have anything to add on that question?
I think to build off of what Rashmi said is document what you expect the outcomes to be and use that to kind of to double check to make sure is it what you're expecting or not, because not it does take time for AI models to learn and to train on the information, so it's that continuous monitoring feedback loop to make sure it is accurately reading the data.
And if I could just add one other thing in there,
Yeah.
I would say be selective about where you do those integrations. A lot of your partners, a lot of these application vendors themselves are coming out with AI tool sets. So there's off-the-shelf things that you can leverage, and some of your existing engineering partners, et cetera, likely have AI tool sets that they can leverage because they have like super robust data. And same thing with your CMMS system. Many of them will be coming out with AI functionality. So while you should always gut check of, is this solving the problem that I have? And to Stacy's point, be grounded in your hypotheses of the value you're going to get, it's definitely worth exploring buy options, meaning leverage something off the shelf versus building an integration. And I caveat that with we are doing both, and people need to have the ability to do both in their repertoire, but always good to gut check if we can buy this over building it.
Perfect. Thank you for chiming in. Um, so another question we have here is how does AI support sustainability initiatives in facility management? Kayla, actually, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say that it helps with better energy management. So it amplifies the goals that are there already. So when we think about sustainable facility management, energy management is a big play. And AI models can help us think about most effective use of energy based off of how the space is actually used and just be, again, more proactive with that. Similarly, this is a silly example, but a big part of sustainable practices is also communicating expected behavior to people and norms. And Gen AI can help us create more personalized notifications to users based on their behavior or more personalized easier to create flyers, e-flyers, etc. So the models themselves can help with energy management, and from a user behavior perspective, Gen AI can help us with faster, more personalized communication.
Mhm. Perfect. So another question we had come in here is, are there specific examples of use cases? So locations, building customers, et cetera, where AI is used in the FM customer experience areas, so help desk, that you could cite. Um, I don't know, Kayla, if I think that question might be something you might want to answer, or Bob.
Sure, I can start, and Bob and Reshmi, we all work so closely together, so please chime in. But I would say, we're not going to share specific customer names, but we'll give an archetype of what it is. So an example of how we've done that is at a very large airport, and so we have predictive maintenance software, and so we integrate it in with their BMS system. So that's where that integration is to get the real-time data around the BMS. And what we've been able to do is have pretty remarkable, quite fast ROI on that effort, because what we see wherever we deploy the predictive maintenance solution is that assets, the most common thing is assets are running like slightly, they'll overheat by 2 degrees and then they'll overcool by 2 degrees. And just little fine tuning like that has remarkable energy savings and also extension of that particular hard asset. And so we've been able to deploy that at a number of clients, but our latest has been at a very large airport. But that's on the hard services side. When we think about the soft services side, what we've done at that exact same airport is take the data around occupancy of restrooms, flight data, so we know what's delayed, what's not delayed, as well as customer satisfaction. I think we've all seen those happy, sad faces at airport restrooms. And we've been able to get predictive in terms of where our janitorial team members should be, and that's had a very significant impact on the traveler experience at that airport. So just a couple examples, but Bob, Reshmi, anything else you want to add in?
Yeah, I mean, I would, again, sticking with, not giving any specific information. If you just look at sectors, I mean, and you look at the various, whether it's manufacturing, commercial spaces, aviation, education, we're deploying this across multiple sectors. And the critical pieces, when you look at hard assets and you look at soft services, where it's going to be helpful is tracking those behaviors and tracking those systems to be responsive based on historical data and historical behaviors. And then also whether you're talking about deployment of, and if you think about post-COVID, and everybody was hyper focused in terms of where people were going, right? And being able to deploy the right resources based on how space was being used. Okay, that's all about being intuitive and being intelligent, right? And so we're deploying this across multiple sectors without being specific. So hopefully that answers your question. So Reshmi?
No, I'll just reiterate the same things, right? One is that predictive maintenance, and then routing the workforce where they need to do the work first instead of wasting the resources. So, and that all of this together also increase your customer experience, customer satisfaction. So everything together comes alive. So I guess, yeah, I'll just reiterate what Kayla and Bob just said.
Perfect. So another question we have here is, what size of a facility would AI be cost effective? Would the cost for a smaller facility be able to be recouped? Um, if anybody, I don't know if anyone would be interested in addressing that one.
I don't think that there's a single answer to that because it depends
Mhm.
on the use case. So let's take an example of um, deploying tons and tons and tons of occupancy sensors. Like probably going to be pretty hard to recoup the ROI on that. But if we're thinking about the hard services side of it, with maybe there's some HVAC equipment that is relatively old, we don't have a lot of data on it. Deploying something like predictive maintenance can be incredibly cost effective and fast ROI. So it's not really one size fits all. I would say it's much more about picking the right use case based off of your individual operations, where you see the most cost currently, where you see the most challenges. So it's not one size fits all. There definitely are opportunities for small facilities. Just be intentional with your ROI models is what I would suggest. And also always thinking about that buy over build option. But Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about metrics for success, what's the impact on client satisfaction, right?
Right.
What's the impact on reduction in service downtime or incident reports? Can you resolve tickets faster? Can you improve client retention and renewal rates? Can you demonstrate ESG improvements around energy, waste, and carbon? There are metrics out there, but to Kayla's point, it all depends on how it's being deployed, what challenges you're trying to overcome. If you've got aged systems and you haven't replaced them, obviously it's kind of low hanging fruit from an energy perspective. But it just all depends on what you're trying to drive as a key outcome.
Mhm. Perfect. So another question I have here is, as a facilities service provider to DoD, we are required to use AI tools that are compliant with cybersecurity maturity model certification and government cloud community high. So what are your recommendations on how to best introduce, integrate, and leverage AI tools into this sector? So just from the sound of that question, Stacy, I think this one might be for you.
Yes. I think so too. My recommendation is a couple of things. One goes back to that good governance structure and making sure that your security team is included from the beginning. That way, if you bring tools in, the team can look at from a security posture, due diligence, how is it connecting in the infrastructure, the data that's being used, and also tie it back to your current existing security control structure, which is what is being leveraged. A lot of our common security controls are a majority of what's being leveraged with the CMMC. So that would be my advice on how to start integrating it into your program.
Perfect. Now, just before I address any other questions, I just want to advance to this next slide, just in case you can see you can get in touch with ABM webinars at abm.com if you have any questions. So moving on to the next question. Let's see. Okay, so I think this will be our last question. Thank you to everybody for sending in some questions. But for our last question, which is another one on the assurance quality side of AI, how do we mitigate the risks involved in using AI to test AI and do the available quality assurance frameworks to cover these risks? So ultimately, I think the question is asking, how do we find a balance? And then I guess anyone could address this, but
I can start.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. So testing for any AI solution, of course, there would be different areas, right? One, I would say you need to first the data. I would always go back there. To, you need to make sure that your data is correct. You don't have unclean data in there. That's one thing. But now when you are testing it, one is the model testing. You have to do a testing on the model. You have to continuously testing to see any data drift or anything. And then you have, because if the data is old, your model output would be bad. So that's one kind of testing. And then try to put an explainable AI framework, like so that you can at least explain if AI is providing you an output, why it provided that output. If we can say that, then when the person who's testing, it's not only about just whether it's correct or not, it's also trusting the model. That also comes as a part of it, right? So make it explainable, make test for the data drift, test for the data itself as well. And then, of course, when you are testing with the end users, make sure you have all those test cases written that try to test the edge cases. Like if something very unexpected can happen, right? Those edge case testing is also very important. I think that, and always write down that use cases, the use case, and then what are the test cases. Get the domain knowledge from the facility, the operation side. They can help you, these are the things we always, these are the things we always encounter. And so these are the things we should test there. So that's, I guess, can be the overall QA framework.
Well, thank you so much to everybody for answering our questions. It looks like we are just about out of time here. So I want to thank you again for sharing your insights on AI, each and every one of you. And I, of course, want to thank ABM for sponsoring this webinar. And thank you to our audience for attending. A recording from today's session will be made available on our magazine's website, facilityexecutive.com. And ABM is on ABM's website as well. If we weren't able to address your questions, we will be able to, the ABM team will be able to address them offline, privately. So I want to thank you all for coming out today, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.